Nelson Piquet Jr. didn't just crash in Singapore 2008, he did it on purpose, to help his teammate win. A stage crash in the middle of an actual Formula 1 race. And the craziest part? It actually worked. That wasn't a rumor. It was one of the most blatant scandals in F1 history. But here's the thing, it wasn't the only one. From hidden engine modes to team sabotage, staged drama, billion-dollar cover-ups, and team orders gone completely ignored, Formula 1 isn't just fast, it runs on secrets. And some of its biggest moments might have been rigged all along. Because do you remember the race in Singapore 2008? The day F1 became WWE, that's what fans called it. Renault driver Nelson Piquet Jr. crashes into the wall on lap 14. Nothing too wild, right? Except this crash happened right after his teammate Fernando Alonso had just pitted. The safety car comes out, everyone else pits. Alonso, already done, suddenly jumps the order from 15th to 1st, wins the race, almost like the whole thing was perfectly timed, and everyone was like, wow, what a masterclass, what a strategy, until 2009. Piquet Jr. gets dropped from the team, he's angry, then he drops the bomb and says the crash was ordered by the team, specifically by team boss Flavio Briatore and engineer Pat Simons, a literal fake accident to manipulate race strategy. So, the FIA starts investigating, but Renault doesn't even fight it. They just dip and got suspended. Briatore gets banned for life, then quietly unbanned later. Simons too. Piquet walks free under immunity. But what about Alonso? Well, he denied knowing anything, saying there was no proof he was involved. But come on, you're telling me Alonso didn't ask why his teammate suddenly turned into a demolition derby driver? Till today, I still don't buy it, and I'm not the only one. Many people believe Alonso had to know. Others believe the FIA covered parts up to protect bigger interests. Either way, the race results stayed, but the trust, gone for sure. But if you thought staging a crash was wild, wait till a team literally stole the other racer's blueprint. And it wasn't about small numbers, we're talking about $100 million here. That's how much McLaren paid for stealing homework. In 2007, McLaren's chief designer Mike Coughlin was caught with 780 pages of Ferrari's technical secrets, and it wasn't even hidden. His wife literally tried to photocopy it at a local shop, super stealthy. James Bond would be proud. Ferrari found out and reported it. The FIA launched an investigation, but it turns out McLaren knew about it because the documents were circulating within the team. Details on the gearbox, weight distribution, floor setup, all there. The theory? McLaren used that info to fine-tune their car, maybe even improve race strategy. At the time, McLaren was leading both championships, but after the scandal broke, everything changed. The FIA fined them $100 million and kicked them out of the constructors' standings. For the drivers, they were untouched. Hamilton and Alonso still fought for the title. And guess who many believe tipped the FIA off? Alonso himself. Alonso snitching to bring down his own team? Peak F1 drama. Word was he threatened to leak emails if McLaren didn't make him the undisputed #1 driver. The team refused, the emails dropped, Ferrari got revenge, and McLaren never fully recovered. But what if the cheating wasn't between teams, but came from the top? This wasn't just a controversy, this was the most explosive lap in modern F1. In the final race of Abu Dhabi 2021, it was Lewis Hamilton versus Max Verstappen. The winner takes the title. Hamilton leads, dominates, 5 laps to go. Then Nicholas Latifi crashes. Out comes the safety car. Verstappen pits for fresh softs. Hamilton stays out on old hards. Then comes the twist. FIA race director Michael Masi lets only the lapped cars between Max and Lewis unlap themselves. Nobody else. That decision goes against the rulebook, but the race continues immediately. Verstappen passes Hamilton in 1 lap, wins the title. Hamilton fans erupt. Conspiracy theories fly. Was it incompetence or something more? FIA later said human error. Right, and I'm sure Latifi just happened to crash. Masi was removed, but the results stayed. Mercedes hinted Liberty Media, who are F1's owners, wanted a dramatic new champion, a Netflix ending, a title fight that would break the internet. Did the FIA bend the rules for the show, or was it just chaos at the worst possible time? The fact that there's still no clear answer is exactly why the theory lives on. But what if the rule breakers weren't punished? Because the rules weren't even clear. Because do you remember when Mercedes went party mode? They didn't just go fast, they went supernova in qualifying. 1 lap pace? unmatched. Suddenly, out of nowhere, they'd find half a second because their party contained a whole secret engine setting that turned the car into a rocket ship. Toto Wolff laughed it off, said, "There's no magic button," which is exactly what someone with a magic button would say. Mercedes always had that one lap punch that nobody could touch. Then, in 2020, the FIA banned qualifying engine modes altogether, supposedly to standardize performance. But some believed it was done to nerf Mercedes. The theory was that the FIA wanted closer racing. Red Bull and Ferrari complained, and the FIA acted. Mercedes still won that season, but not with the same dominance. The conspiracy was that party mode wasn't just real, it was legal until it wasn't, and the FIA only banned it when it became too obvious. So either Mercedes were way ahead, or the FIA helped balance the grid when it got too boring. Depends who you ask. But that mode remains one of F1's biggest what-ifs, and if secret engine modes raised eyebrows, Ferrari took it a step further, with an engine so suspicious even the FIA went silent. Because in 2019, Ferrari went ballistic. Ferrari suddenly had straight-line speed that didn't make any sense, and everyone noticed. Red Bull filed official complaints, while Mercedes just looked completely baffled, and the FIA said nothing until the off-season. Suddenly, the FIA dropped a bombshell statement. "We've reached a private settlement with Ferrari regarding their power unit." That's it. No details, no penalties, no explanations. Basically the F1 version of, "We handled it internally." What happened? Rumors exploded. Many believe Ferrari found a way to bypass fuel flow sensors. More fuel equals more power, and apparently less transparency equals more silence. Illegal under FIA rules, but Ferrari's system allegedly fooled the sensors. After the secret deal, Ferrari's speed vanished. In 2020, they dropped to the midfield. Everyone connected the dots. Ferrari cheated, the FIA caught them, but protected them to avoid a scandal. Other teams protested the secrecy, but the FIA refused to share details. Instead, they made every team install dual fuel sensors starting 2020, which just made it more obvious. Ferrari played it sneaky behind the scenes, but Red Bull, they gave us a full-blown meltdown, live on track in front of millions. No secret deals, no silent engines, just raw driver defiance, team orders ignored, and a rivalry that blew the garage wide open. Malaysia 2013. Red Bull tells Webber and Vettel to hold positions. Multi-21 was the coded order. Webber was leading. Vettel ignored it, passed Webber, took the win. Webber was furious. On the podium, he threw shade, said, "Seb will always have protection." Fans saw it as confirmation. Red Bull wasn't neutral. They backed their golden boy. The betrayal wasn't new. In 2010, Webber had a front wing taken off his car and given to Vettel. Even when leading the championship, Red Bull said it was for performance reasons. Fans didn't buy it. The Multi-21 moment just confirmed what everyone suspected. Vettel was the chosen one, Webber was the sidekick. No matter the situation, Webber just didn't get the Hogwarts letter, I guess. Some say Vettel was just being a racer. Others say he knew the team wouldn't punish him. Either way, it exposed the politics within the garage and added fuel to one of Red Bull's oldest conspiracies. But now imagine breaking the rules and then hiding it with a secret test. Because in 2013, Mercedes secretly ran a 3-day Pirelli tire test using their actual 2013 car. Not a mule, not an old chassis, the real one. And here's the kicker. No other team got an invite, which is wild because that's a clear breach of F1 sporting regulations. If you're going to test mid-season, especially with current machinery, you tell the grid. The other teams were furious. Red Bull and Ferrari screamed foul. This wasn't just a private experiment. It could have been a goldmine of tire data for Mercedes while the rest sat in the dark. FIA launched a tribunal, dragged Mercedes into court. The verdict? A reprimand. That's it. No points deduction, no race ban, no DQ, just a slap on the wrist and a promise not to do it again. Mercedes must have used their get out of jail free card. F1 fans weren't buying it. They said the FIA protected Mercedes, that the whole punishment was just a PR stunt to make it look like action was taken. The real theory? Pirelli asked Mercedes to help fix exploding tires. Remember, earlier that season we had multiple blowouts, like Hamilton at Silverstone. It was dangerous, so maybe Pirelli leaned on Mercedes to test solutions, quietly. Still, it felt shady, especially because Mercedes suddenly looked a lot more comfortable on tires afterward. Was that a coincidence? Sure, but in F1, no one believes in coincidences. But if you thought that was sneaky, what about parking on purpose? It was the slowest block in F1 history. 2006 Monaco qualifying, Michael Schumacher chasing pole, so was Fernando Alonso. Last flying lap, Alonso's on it, until Schumacher locks up and stops at Rascasse corner. Engine running, no damage, just parked. He claimed it was a mistake, that he braked late and had nowhere to go. But the footage looked staged. No tire marks, no twitch, just a weird slow slide offline. And park. Alonso had to back off. Lap ruined. Mission accomplished. FIA didn't buy it. They reviewed the telemetry, the camera angles, and then sent Schumacher to the back of the grid, which, let's be honest, was basically them calling him a liar without saying the word. But fans were split. Some believed he panicked under pressure and messed up. Others were convinced it was deliberate. And look, it's Monaco. You can't overtake. A block like that is a race-winning move, but it was so blatant that even for Schumacher, it crossed the line. Still, no team radio, no confession, so it lives on as one of the most suspicious moments in qualifying history. Let's fast forward to 2022 and one cost cap scandal that made 0 sense. Here's the question: how much is a championship worth? In 2022, Red Bull was found to have breached the cost cap. They overspent by just over $2 million. That's not a spare change, especially when you're fighting for every tenth. So, what was the punishment? A $7 million fine, which didn't count towards the cap, and a 10% reduction in wind tunnel time. That's it. No lost points, no constructor penalty. Max kept the title, Red Bull kept the trophies. A lot of fans went ballistic. They said the FIA went soft, that Red Bull were too big to punish. They were the show. They brought in viewers, and the FIA didn't want to alienate the face of their product. Red Bull claimed it was admin errors. Sure, and I'm dating Beyonce, they also said something about catering costs and employee pay structures. Those must have been some Michelin-starred snacks. But again, in F1, nobody believes your spreadsheet excuses, especially when the reward is a world title. Many still argued the penalty was worth it. Red Bull's 2023 dominance didn't seem hurt by the wind tunnel hit. If anything, it just made other teams angrier. But if you've ever heard the phrase Ferrari International Assistance, you already know this next one. It's the oldest joke in F1. FIA, it stands for Ferrari International Assistance, and fans didn't just make that up out of nowhere. There's history behind it. Back in 1994, Benetton got hammered by the FIA traction control, illegal fuel valves, black flag controversies. Meanwhile, Ferrari? Barely touched. Then, in 2003, Michelin tires started beating Bridgestone, Ferrari's supplier. Mid-season, FIA changed the tire rules. Suddenly, Michelin's tires were illegal. Ferrari started winning again. Was that coincidence? Ferrari fans say yes. Everyone else says politics. The theory goes that the FIA protected Ferrari to keep the sport's most famous team on top. Penalties for them came slower. Rule changes seemed to fit their strengths. Even team bosses started calling it out. Ron Dennis, Flavio Briatore, they all hinted at it. The idea was, if you're Ferrari, the FIA plays nice. If you're anyone else, good luck. At this point, they might as well put a prancing horse on the FIA logo. Is it favoritism, or just Ferrari playing the game better? But in 2023, it looked like the FIA flipped sides. This one came out of nowhere. Midway through 2023, Mercedes finally looked competitive again. They had sorted porpoising. The car wasn't bouncing like a pogo stick anymore. Lap times improved. Hopes went up. All of a sudden, FIA drops a new technical directive. Floor edges needed to be higher, all in the name of safety. Safety from what? Mercedes podiums? But the funny thing is, Red Bull and Ferrari weren't affected at all. Mercedes lost performance overnight. Toto Wolff wasn't subtle. He said the rule change was suspicious. Fans believed it was a targeted hit, that the FIA didn't want Mercedes back on top, especially not with a rising Red Bull narrative and Ferrari trying to stay relevant. So was it about protecting drivers' spines, or just bruised egos over Mercedes showing signs of life? Depends on who you ask. All we know is, once again, the FIA made a mid-season call that changed the title picture, and finally, one theory that's torn F1 fans for over a decade. But for that, we have to go back to 2007, Lewis Hamilton's rookie season. He's leading the championship against his own teammate, Fernando Alonso, and against Kimi Raikkonen in the Ferrari. Tensions in the McLaren garage was nuclear. Then came the weird calls, strange pit stops, fuel errors, And in the final race in Brazil, Hamilton drops from 2nd place to 18th place in just one lap. Some blamed gearbox issues, others said it was strategy failure. Either way, he lost the title by 1 point. Fans still debate it. Some believe McLaren sabotaged Hamilton to avoid letting a rookie embarrass their star signing, Alonso. Others say Alonso was sabotaged after the Spygate scandal broke, and the team wanted revenge. Both drivers were quick, both made mistakes, but the constant drama around pit calls, race orders, and technical glitches, it was too much. The sabotage theory isn't proven, but with how chaotic that year was and how tight the margins ended up, people still ask, did McLaren secretly choose who they wanted to win? Crashgate, Spygate, the FIA rigging finishes. F1's history isn't just about racing, it's about what we don't see on track, the hidden deals, the silent penalties. So if you're the kind of fan who wants the real story behind the results, hit that notification bell so you won't miss the next wild theories. Let me know what theories you think are true in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next one.